Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of 10-Minute Kick-Ass Coaching. My name is Rob Lyon from robmlyon.com. Today is episode number 18. We're getting there, 18. And we're going to talk about persistence versus consistent. I talked to my former business partner about this yesterday and the difference between the two, so I wanted to break it down. I know I put a post up there earlier on talking about the difference between the two, but we're going to get into some variables today in the 10-minute conversation. Actually, I've had to head to New York right after this, so we'll cover it really quick. Persistent people have a regimen, and consistent people have an end game. Very simply, that means something that's consistent. Regimen means something they do over and over and over again. We talked about the ladder, and I'm going to use it a few times in the example. When you climb a ladder, you're using something tactical. You're going through regimen. You're climbing the ladder one by one. If you have an end game, you're worried about how to get from the very bottom to the top as efficiently and as quickly as you can, ethically as possible. So that's how the two different work on that. Persistent people are tactical versus consistent people that have a strategy. Persistent and tactical is a form of, again, the military. We talked about the other day when a person's in the military and orders are given, they follow the orders. That's a tactical, and that's life-saving, and that's mandatory. It has to be. But in order to go into battle, in order to end up with the war, they have to have a strategy. So consistent have a strategy when they're trying to implement something. Persistent people tend to annoy, very true, and consistent people tend to aware. Now, they may not be annoying intentionally, but that's the way it can come across. When you're persistent, you're pushing something down somebody's face, you're pushing something there, you're pushing something at somebody. Versus making them aware of something. Making aware is taking them and pulling them towards you. Okay, here's the information. Now I need you to bring it back toward me, and whatever that happens to be, you bring it back toward me. So that's what happens when you make people aware versus taking and annoying them. It says persistent people tend to push and consistent people tend to pull, just what I talked about right now. Instead of pushing somebody towards you, pulling somebody magnetically back to you is definitely a better way to go. If you're always pushing toward them, eventually you'll push until that door just breaks down, and not in a good way. Not that you're breaking down the door to make a good impact. You're breaking down the door and the person's going to be pissed off that you broke their door. So, keep that in mind. You want to make sure people are magnetically pulled towards you. Persistent people are seen as pests. Consistent people are seen as welcome guests. Total spin-off Dan Kennedy story about you want to be perceived as a welcome guest, not a pest. Certainly you want to be welcome. So if you're giving people value, if you're getting into things that will help them and help them grow and benefit them, benefit their family, their friends, their business, whatever the case is, they're going to remember that. The law of reciprocity dictates that they will remember that. So you want to be perceived as a welcome guest versus an annoying pest. It's just that simple. Make sure that you are seen that way to your customers. And it's every time you talk to somebody, think about, am I coming across like somebody that's really, obnoxious or annoying or aggravating? That's being seen as an annoying pest. But being invited into your home, as Dan Kennedy says when he talks about how his yard in front of his house were on fire and the friendly neighbor was trying to let him know about it, and he thought he was just trying to market to him or sell to him or whatever he was trying to do. Turns out the guy was trying to help him save his house and his life at the end of the day. So you want to be perceived as a welcome guest, not a annoying pest. Persistent people try to sell, where consistent people market like hell. Very, very true. Persistent people are always in sales mode. Sell, 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 sell. Well, in order to sell, your marketing should be efficient. The best pathway, I'm totally quoting Joe Polish here, the greatest pathway to the sale is to market correctly. The greatest pathway is to market properly, and then the sale becomes substantially easier, and it's true. Marketing, if it's done effectively and correctly, will make it more efficient. I've had an example where I have somebody that I've been marketing to for years with our restoration side, and the only reason I think he called me to talk to me was because I sent him all this stuff, and he liked it, and he thought it was good, and it was personalized to him, personalized to his company. He runs a huge corporation. He has given our blessing to other companies, which has yielded quite a bit of work. So it ended up being a very good thing. But we don't actually get any referrals from him, and I'm okay with that. I want him to be comfortable with referring our company and working with us. But one of the things that came of that is after I mailed him, he says, I got to meet who this guy is. I see his face on stuff. I see his copy. I see his sales letters. I see his postcards. I see whatever he's sending me. I see the 3D mail he might be mailing me. I see everything that he's doing. But I want to meet the guy that does it because this is pretty unique stuff, and it seems to work because it's got my attention. I run a pretty big company, and I know other people that particularly me, markets to, that also are kind of, interested in what type of marketing it is. So the marketing is attempted to draw people in, not to push you away. So that's kind of the key to it. So you really want to master the art of marketing before you master the art of sale. You've got to close the sale at the end of the day. But if the marketing is done correctly, this path to the sale is much easier, no doubt about it. Persistent people drive home the point. Consistent people always educate. Well, it's always good to drive home the point. You probably heard that when you're growing up. Make sure you drive home the point with this, drive home the point with that. That's an old school way of thinking, and that's okay. But it's pushing. Again, you're driving. You're taking a hammer and a nail, and you're smacking the hammer and the nail in, and you're pushing, and that's okay. You could still make a deck by hammering and nailing. It's very, very effective to make sure that you are pushing to a certain degree of it, because without that nail being in the wood and you're building a porch, your porch is just going to fall apart. If you're on the second floor, you have a big problem on your hands. So understand that you have to make sure that you educate people. You add value to whatever you're doing. So if you're educating somebody on why to do something, not the tactical or the all the features of something, then you're going to be in good shape. You're going to really kind of expound on the benefits of whatever it is being done. So I mean, it's definitely a key to look at persistent people, drive home the point, but consistent people always educate. Persistent people are here today. Consistent people build relationships not to be taken away. I'm not a poet. I'm not trying to be a poet. I'm a songwriter. It's about as far as it goes, but that's my only spin on any type of rhyme today. Persistent people are here to make the sale right now, the front end stuff. They're so determined to make the sale right now. They're not worried about the back end. They're not worried about the long-term relationship they have with somebody. And it's vital with everything. When I'm marketing our disaster restoration service, I'm worried about the long-term relationship I've built with the person that is able to refer my service. That's the person I'm actually working with to market our services. Ultimately, if I do a great job at that, and I have some of the people that actually do sell our services that are so good that they almost pre-qualify the customer before we even go out there, it's awesome. But I've educated the referral sources. I've told them what we're looking for. I've told them, how to present it from our standpoint. And they find their own way to do it. They've got to be comfortable in their own skin of what's got to be done. But it's very, very beneficial that they take and educate the consumer. When they educate the consumer, when they educate the person that's had a damage in their property, when you educate whoever you have to do, they find the tangible benefit of what you're talking about. So very, very important to understand that even though driving home the point is good, you've got to educate, and to build relationships are very, very important long term. I talked about the little black book of connections versus the little red book of selling that Jeffrey Gitomer very incredibly put out, both amazing books. I like the book of connections because those connections match things together. It's a plan. So this matches this to matches this, whatever the case is. It's very important to use those relationships. Those are what's long-term and enduring. Even though you'll make the sale right now, if there's no relationship, they're not loyal, they're not faithful. They're going to go to the next person with shiny objects that says, hey, I've got this, go ahead and use me. Awesome. Make sure you educate people and build that fold around them, and make sure you over-deliver every single time. Big time is over-delivering. Persistent people push you away. Consistent people convince you to stay. Very simple. If you're persistent with somebody, you're going to drive home whatever the point is, but you're going to convince a person why they should work with you, what's the benefit versus the feature. I know I talked about that before, and it's very important. Features are something that might be important to you. Well, if I have a sales CRM system, and that system goes from here to here and integrates this and social media and blah, 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 blah. Great. All they care about is their life is easier, and they can get something done within 1 hour, not 3 hours. Plain and simple. Successful people do not ever think about something that's going to take them long term on something. They want to make sure they have the fastest point to the effect. So they want to make sure that whatever they're talking about or whatever is being presented to them gets right to the point, very specific. I heard a story from somebody at a get together I was at last night, and the person was telling me that the person he was prospecting to asked him if he did any fishing, and he put in a picture of his boat as he's trying to position his product to this guy. He says, you know anything about boats? And the salesperson says, well, I've gone out fishing. And the business owner goes, well, yeah, what kind of fish? And he says, well, striped bass and tuna. Now, tuna could have been a lucky guess. Striped bass is not a real common one unless you are a fisherman. You could say bass, you could say trout. But if he said trout or bass, the conversation would have been done, because he would have known he was not being truthful with him. He's just telling him something he wants to hear in order to make the sale, and that's a big judgment character. So if you're going into a situation and somebody asks you a question, be honest. Tell them what you understand. Tell them what you know. Don't try and come up with something creative. It's not going to work, and successful people see right through it. Wealthy people, fluent people see right through it. They know if you're coming off with some line of crap or they're coming off with something good. So that is pretty much what I wanted to cover today, is understand the difference between persistent and consistent. You're always better off being consistent. McDonald's has a massive track record of being consistent and doing very well, making very few changes and tweaks to their menu, and when something is a failure, they get rid of it. They know instantly. They have 1,000 ways to figure out if something is working or not, and they change it. But generally, people that go to McDonald's buy 5 different things on the menu. That's pretty much what they sell the most of. That's the stuff they're preparing the fastest, because that's what people are used to. Your Big Mac, your chicken nuggets, your fish fillet, so forth and so on. They only really go for some of those 5 major things. If you're going for a great salad, McDonald's is usually not the best place for it. But that could be part of your consistency. Persistence and determination is a good thing within reason. I've had sales reps around me that have not done quite as well by being very, very persistent, and then the people I'm marketing to feel comfortable enough with me to tell me, do you know this particular guy? And yeah, I know he is. He represents this company. And I said, I would say, I know who he is, and I understand who the company is, and I know who they are, and they seem to be a decent company. I don't knock my competition. I'm not in the business of doing that, nor will I ever be in the business of doing that. And he says, well, this guy was so pushy, I finally told him not to come back. And I really deal with you, and I didn't want to get into it with him, and I finally told him I deal with you because you've been coming here for years, and you do a good quality job, and the customers are happy, and I don't care. I don't care if he's paying me more money or not. I don't want to deal with this. So I told him to take a hike. And I felt very honored that they would say that, but you would like to think that if you do the right thing, and you do the right thing by people, and you're fair and you're balanced, that they will remember that. So understand the difference between persistent and consistent. Both have their points in memory. I'd rather be consistent personally, because people get used to, if I deliver something very, very good, I typically, if I'm coaching somebody, I way over deliver, as do a lot of colleagues of mine. They way over deliver. You know why they way over deliver? Because somebody's probably gotten lousy advice from somebody else, and now you've got to make up for the difference of somebody having to maybe take a bath, maybe, really burn through some money that they really couldn't afford to burn through. So the person will ethically, that is working with them now, will go, I really have to over-deliver for this guy, because he had a bad experience, and I can't ever let him think he's getting a bad experience with me. So that is the law of consistency when it comes to it, is making sure that the consistency is there and it's always over-delivered. And the persistence is good. Like I said, when you're building a deck, it's very good to make sure you nail in, put as many nails in the deck as you need to, or that deck will fall, or that foundation will fall, as a better metaphor. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. Today is episode number 18 of Kick-Ass Coaching, 10-minute Kick-Ass Coaching. We're coming to you every single day, 5 days a week with these. Please feel free to comment. Please feel free to add any questions you may have. I'm here for you 10 minutes every single day. I have a list of questions that keep coming every single day. I got some great feedback yesterday from somebody from a strategy session, so that person knows how much I appreciate them, and I appreciate their feedback, and it was very, very flattering, and thank you. That's pretty much it for the end of today. Again, episode number 18 of 10-Minute Kick-Ass Coaching. It's awesome to have you here. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye.